Hello, and welcome to The Gardens, located in sunny... The Gardens is one of the largest combined zoological habitat and theme parks in the world. With over 72 thrilling attractions and nearly 11,000 animals in our care, we know that every member of your family will find something incredible each time you visit. But that's just the start of your adventure. To really see what the park has to offer, I'll turn you over to our top 2 guides. Take it away, boys!
Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the weekly discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name is Mitchell. What up, everybody?
What's going on? If you haven't heard, or if we haven't posted it yet, or you're just not aware of our website, Twitter, or Facebook...
Or if you're actively ignoring us...
Stop. We just finished, probably a good 4 minutes ago, another private Thoughtspeak, which if you, like I said, if you haven't been following us, those are our new little, off-the-cuff discussions that are separate from, usually separate from Animorphs. We talked about Animorphs a little bit in this one, but... Just a
little side project to keep everybody kind of tied over until the next episode comes out.
Yeah, you guys should let us know what you think of those. Are they only going up on YouTube?
Yeah, for now. I don't see really any reason to throw them on iTunes.
No, don't.
As of yet.
We shouldn't do that, but maybe we should make them just audio files so that people could listen to them, and we could do technically a separate RSS feed just for those or something.
Perhaps, if they prove popular enough.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but...
I like it right now the way we're doing it because it's almost effortless.
You're effortless.
I just cut the audio and throw it over a still image and export it as a video and then pop it on YouTube.
That's true.
That's why I like doing it.
Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for listening to another one.
Thanks for tuning in.
If you're new to the show, I don't know why you jumped in on number 17, book 17. That's kind of ridiculous. You should go back and start at 1. That's where you learn about what Yerks are.
Back when we're still getting our sea legs for podcasting.
Yeah, we're a little rusty. We're young and idealistic about what a podcast could be or what kind of schedule we could keep.
We were an ambitious young squad with everything to prove.
Nothing to lose. Now we have everything to lose. And the harsh realities of life have made us cynical and really depressed, if I'm being honest.
That's you, man. I'm living life to the fullest over here.
Well, we're going to jump straight into our discussion of Book 17, The Underground, and we're going to do that now.
This section of the park houses one of the most extensive research libraries devoted to animal biology on the West Coast. Your guides will provide a thorough summary of any book that might catch your eye. Careful though, once you get them started, they'll never want to stop.
All right, like I said, we are discussing and reviewing book number 17, The Underground. This is a Rachel book, which I don't know how I feel about those right now. I think they're kind of still a little iffy as far as whether I care about being in her head.
Yeah, there are some things that kind of irk me, but we'll point them out as I go.
I'm going to go ahead and read the back. What's tasty, good for you, and only takes about 60 seconds to make. Oatmeal. And it's making the Yerks more than a little crazy. Now Rachel, the other Animorphs, and Axe have a new weapon against the Yerks. Sounds good, right? Wrong, because it means another trip to the Yerk pool, and the possibility of running into Visitor 3, and of not being able to get back up to the surface. The Animorphs and Axe have taken chances before and been very lucky, but this time their luck may be about to run out.
Oh no!
Their luck's not about... They've never been lucky in the past. I mean, they've survived, but their luck is terrible.
Right, yeah. Their luck's constantly running out, and then running back in.
So this is the Animorphs book that you are embarrassed to read in public because it's super pink, has just a blonde girl on the front turning into a bat. But
if I must say, Rachel is at her most attractive on this cover thus far.
She's like 13.
You can't tell that by looking at the model. Also, this is when the cover quotes officially jump the shark here. There's nothing to fear but the Yerks themselves.
That makes no sense. Hey, to be fair, at least we have 4 ellipses on the front to match the back.
Ooh,
remember when those didn't match up?
Continuity.
It's pretty crazy. And I will say, even though it's very pink, the overall design seems more conformed and a little more higher quality. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know.
Like the background looks more tie-dye-ish and not as, bad graphic clouds.
This still looks like some difference clouds rendered in Photoshop here.
Yeah, it's possible. The inside cover is staggeringly relevant, which is a surprise.
Yeah, it's not a bad inside flap.
Nope, never mind. Sorry. I was going to give the inside cover praise, but if this is correct, the Yerk pool is about 15 feet wide.
No, I assume that's not the Yerk pool pictured there.
Well, then why are stairs leading directly into this small body of water?
Well, I mean, it's obviously not the Yerk pool. It's not the leaden gray. There's no pier. There's no, controllers huddled around it. I think this is just a common thing that we've run into here with the artists not knowing what they're doing.
But yeah, to be fair, they might think this is the Yerk pool and just not know about any of that stuff. They're like, a pool, Yerks are the bad guys, right? I guess this is where they sunbathe?
Oh, they live in caves and dive into pools. I don't know.
At some point, we do have to start blaming Michael Grant and Kay Applegate. Well, not so Michael Grant, because I doubt he was really in the business side of things, because as far as I know, Kay Applegate was just taking credit for all of this, and no one knew Michael Grant was writing half of it. But
I don't
at
know
some point,
that.
we have to blame them, because, when you're on book 17, you've seen some of the bad decisions these artists are making with your covers and inside covers. And you could at least make an effort to be like even shout things across the room at them so that they have knowledge, even if they're not trying to remember it.
I don't know. Scholastic must have just told her to, stick to writing and we'll stick to the marketing.
A poor decision on everyone's part.
That could be it. We'll never know unless we get her on the show.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
You want to get into the story here?
I was going to say the exact same thing about you. You want to do a summary of the overall plot, or just jump into the...
What? No, let's walk through it like we always do.
We always do, but I think this one, we could stop and just at least address the community and how they talk about this one, because it's different from a lot of the ones. This isn't like a big book. It's not some epic mythology book or anything. But it is one talked about quite a bit.
Why?
And I think it's because it centers around oatmeal. And a lot of people took that as just ridiculous, and it's an inside joke.
It's almost like the Andalite toilet back from book 14.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I'm spoiling anything saying that gets a lot of jabs and joking around with the Animorphs community, and the fact that it's all about oatmeal, and that in itself is funny, but I think a little bit like the Andalite toilet book, this book takes it seriously. I mean, it's not just joking around. I mean, it's kind of joking in the fact that it's oatmeal, and the kids are joking about that, but it takes the plot pretty straightforward.
Yeah, there's a pretty cool element, I thought, about the whole oatmeal thing, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay. You want to start us off with what goes on in the beginning?
Oh, you bet I do. This one's a doozy, because it starts out with the team basically trying to convince Jake that they all want to go check out this Planet Hollywood event. And it's a big deal because there's going to be a lot of celebrities there. Particularly the ones that they're really excited for are Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lucy Lawless, who played Xena. Always a big 90s reference, especially in this series, Xena.
And I think Stallone and Willis are
mentioned offhandedly. Bruce Willis, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of celebrities, but the bogus excuse that they come up with here is that so Axe can learn about human culture. That's how they justify this.
Yeah, obviously Marco and them just want to see some celebrities and get into a unexclusive event. Basically everything they're against when it's not particularly something they want to do.
Yeah, here's a good chance for them to use their powers for personal gain once more.
Yeah, except now everybody's on board. So,
yeah.
Huzzah.
Basically. Well, after what happened in the last book, they kind of need a little R&R.
A little pick-me-up.
As much as they can possibly get.
Yeah. So, after a little food court scene, which is always good with Axe just eating a cinnamon, and apparently eating a cinnamon bun from Cinnabon, causes him to just continue eating even when the bun is gone. Like if the bun touched something, he's going to eat that as well.
Yo, that's not till a little bit later.
What? No, it's right here.
No, I don't know why you're jumping ahead all the time.
Oh, because my phone skipped ahead. Sorry.
Stupid phone. That's why you can't depend on phone technology for podcasting. Anyway, so they go to this big Planet Hollywood event, and I like that they actually say that it's Planet Hollywood, because sometimes, they come up with generic terms when, I guess, using the proper term is not acceptable. Even though they have no problem with product placement with Cinnabon and Taco Bell and all these other places.
And if you're, under the age of 20 and you're trying to figure out what a Planet Hollywood is, it's just basically a restaurant that with a ton of movie memorabilia and props from different movies, and it's all Hollywood themed, and it's actually owned by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone.
Right. So it's not crazy to think that these celebrities would be out there representing this.
No, they open them all the time.
And the team is flying around in bird morph, having a grand old time looking at all the celebrities when Rachel spots a just guy going crazy in some building downtown, and he looks like he's about to bust out one of the windows and leap to his death. And the Animorphs act quickly in time to catch the guy as he's falling. And, this is like 4 or 5... giant birds gliding this person down.
Let's see. Yeah, I didn't know how believable that was because actually most of them are pretty small. I mean, Rachel's morph is the only decent-sized bird. Ospreys are tiny. Peregrine falcons are pretty small. Tobias is maybe a mid-sized hawk,
Yeah, and I think Tobias was more just like guiding them along. And, it wasn't like they were actually lifting the guy. They were trying to glide him to safety.
They only moved him a little bit towards the already close river. So that helped the believability a little bit.
Yeah, they dump him off in the river, and to stop the guy from drowning, Rachel goes in and morphs Dolphin and helps him out there. And I don't know about this scene, honestly. This when I read this, I was like, ugh, we're not off to a good start.
Yeah, it's just setting up the plot. It's just some exposition.
I know. It just... I don't like it when the plot hinges on heavy coincidence, which is something that happens a lot in Animorphs books, but this one really, really irked me.
I can kind of see, granted, we are coming into the books as things are happening, so you could kind of not chalk it up to coincidence. I think in this Yorktown, now that we've gotten an idea of how big the invasion is, which is pretty much centered around this town for now, I would say that an alien population invading is going to cause plenty of strange events that if they're outdoors and they're in morph doing things, they're going to run into some weird stuff. So it's possible and not 100%, just right place, right time. I think there's probably a lot of events like this happening with, a newly invading alien species, and they're running across like 1/5 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not possible that they could be out flying around for one thing and then just happen to spot a guy committing suicide who just happens to be, the bringer of this oatmeal.
Well, when you say
scenario.
It like that...
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming at from this. But whatever, as you said, yeah, it sets up the plot.
Not to carry this on much longer, but to be fair, this book itself does say that this is a widespread problem. This is not just a few Yeerks. Tons and tons of Yeerks are addicted to this stuff. So there could be tons of events like this happening.
I guess that's true. That is true. And then this is where we cut to later at the mall where the team is assembling for some good old dialogue at the food court. And I believe this is the first scene where Axe is introduced to cinnamon buns. Bunza.
No, it's not the first cinnamon buns scene ever. We've already had
Really?
two.
Have we?
100%.
Oh, well. It's just been so long, I guess.
They find out the guy's name, though, which is interesting. The guy.
Yeah. George Edelman is this controller, this mad controller's name. Although they don't know he's a controller at this point.
Yeah, and Rachel, it's funny her little reaction where she is like, oh, I didn't even try to look up the guy's name. But now that she knows it, it's like, oh, that's the guy I saved. That means something.
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh, you saved him. You're responsible for him now. Kind of joking about that.
Apparently
she
he's a
doesn't
Wookiee.
really take it very serious.
He has a life debt to her now.
Right, yeah. And then later, we've got Rachel hanging out at home, having one of these, Rachel's home life scenes with her sister, and her mom comes in, and
which, to interrupt real quick, is my first note that I wrote down.
Oh yeah.
The fact that this is one of the first few times that we get continuity within the person who we're following versus just continuity with the last book. Rachel's in her kitchen. It mentions that it's still under construction from when, back in the reaction, when she fell through her bedroom floor into the kitchen, nearly killing her sister.
Classic Rachel storyline.
Yeah, we have continuity from Rachel's last book to her new book, instead of just the normal, what it had been doing of whatever the last book is. Maybe they'll mention it a couple times or something, the plot of that one. So I found that good. That's a good direction the series should take, to make it more personal, make the continuity more personal and slightly more complicated, which is the sign of a good book series.
Yeah, it definitely gains points, for harkening back, and that makes sense that they would mention it then, being that this is the first time we've really had a scene with Rachel and her family in her house in quite a while, probably since the reaction, in fact.
Yep.
So it's all good, and her mom is kind of upset with her for a little bit until she mentions that she is George Edelman's new lawyer, coincidentally.
That's the coincidence that bugs me.
Yeah, that, I saw it coming, but wow. It's just super coincidental. Plus the fact that this is also when Rachel finds out, from her mom, nonetheless, that George Edelman's going crazy because he thinks he's got a York in his head.
Yeah, funny little scene hearing her mom talk about the alien invasion that her daughter's fighting, but still.
Oh, she's gonna get well acquainted with it later on.
Yeah. So they decide to go where George Edelman is being housed, which is a mental facility, because
which they keep referring to as a nut house.
Yeah, not very politically correct, Animorphs.
No, but it makes sense given the fact that they're all, 14, 15-year-olds.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But this wouldn't have flown, probably, if it came out this year. If they got to 17 in the re-releases, they would probably change this whole joking conversation about nuts. And
yeah, I thought they did come on a little strong here, but I guess maybe that's just the adult in me going, ooh.
Those darn Animorph kids.
Those darn kids being disrespectful to the mentally disabled.
Mm-hmm. So they find a way to sneak in, which is a mental facility. It's locked down pretty tight. But they see it's being delivered to by trucks, normal stuff. So they fly into the back of the truck and demorph in a very cramped space.
Tight spaces. Rachel and Marco, and then her cousin is also there.
And they go cockroach before they're caught by the people who saw them fly in as birds.
Right, yeah. Kind of hard to miss that.
Even though this was a silly coincidence, I thought this was pretty funny. The fact that they're talking about how, this is a delivery truck that has food in it. The food it has is fruit from South America, like bananas.
Yeah, not just any fruit. They're in a box of bananas from South America.
Yeah, and they make a joke. I'd love to know if they were referencing arachnophobia or something with Jeff Daniels. But they make a joke about how some of these crates, they come with spiders and tarantulas and stuff from South America that love to, eat the flies and insects that come for bananas.
Yeah, and of course, because they mention this, that immediately happens. And you know what? I don't mind the scene. I like the fact that they included the tarantula in the bananas. That's great. But what I didn't like was the fact that, one character points it out and then it immediately happens. Like, that's another thing that came off as a coincidence when it didn't need to be.
Yeah,
they could have very easily just been attacked by the spider and then maybe had Cassie mention after the incident. Oh, yeah. That kind of thing happens.
Would have completely fixed the problem with it if Cassie just had some knowledge, was just like, yeah, that happens every once in a while.
I just would have liked to have that explanation come after it instead of before it, because then it made it seem, predictable.
Yeah. So Tobias comes in and eats the spider.
Right, yeah. Before Rachel's in real danger here, and she's like lost cockroach legs and stuff, and Tobias just swoops in like, oh, is that you down there? Comes in and eats the spider.
Yeah, which that can't be healthy for a hawk. Tarantulas from South America. You don't know
I'm
what
willing
diseases...
to bet they eat weirder stuff.
You don't know what disease that South American tarantula is carrying for North American hemisphere birds and...
Nah, dude, it's rich in potassium. It's been living off those bananas for quite a while.
That's true. They finally get inside, and Rachel actually gets in the room with Edelman.
Yeah, it's surprising.
She gets in the room with the guy she saved, so that's interesting.
In the bathroom, not just any room.
Yeah, he believes her a little too quick, because the whole premise of this conversation and everything is that he's not actually crazy. He's just a controller, and not even a real controller. He's a human who just knows he's a controller. So he should have maybe thought this was a little weirder.
He assumes that her presence there means she knows what's going on. And I like that they even had him come to the conclusion. He goes, Andalite? And she just kind of nods or acknowledges that. And then he can go on to explain himself.
They play pretty fast and loose in this entire book with their identities.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit more bold, what with the speaking to Visor 3 and speaking to controllers in general. And yeah, like... taking risks with Edelman.
Speaking of Visor 3, I understand that and like its development, but showing, like, this is why you should have other human morphs, so that you can do this situation without revealing that you're a 14-year-old kid and what your face looks like.
That, or everybody should have just acquired Axe. And then,
it's
boom,
a bunch of axes running around. Yeah.
I'm sure they would, pose a problem with that, though, if they're not willing to even morph human.
I don't know. I can't see there not being a future ghostwritten book that doesn't have them morphing Andalites. At least a couple of them or something.
Yeah. Actually, I honestly don't know if they do ever. I'm pretty sure they don't ever acquire Andalite morphs.
I don't think they do, because it seems like they would actually use those. But
right.
It seems like too easy of a premise that one of the ghostwriters didn't jump on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have enough time to tackle that or something. Maybe they felt a book on Atlantis was far more worth their time.
It was. That's the book with orcas. I am so excited for that book. It's not even funny.
Oh, we'll get to it in time. But through speaking with this poor guy, George Edelman, who is resigned to this terrible life with this just insane yerk living in his head, who refuses to leave. He's stuck in this nut house, for lack of a better term, for the rest of his life in this terrible, terrible situation. But Rachel learns about this yerk's, basically this addictive substance to them, and their one true weakness at this point, which is this instant maple ginger oatmeal.
Maple and ginger oatmeal.
Right, and I mean, I can't stand oatmeal. I hate it, so it's a pretty fitting weakness.
I like oatmeal, specifically maple, so that's weird.
Man, I tried getting into oatmeal, but I just can't get over the texture. It just felt like regurgitated, vomit in my mouth.
Yeah. Well, some people like it, some people don't. The yerks definitely don't.
Well, actually, the problem is that the yerks do.
Well, their bodies don't, is what I meant. It is so addictive. Not only is it distracting them and causing them to go crazy in that aspect. It's literally making them go crazy as well. They can't handle it over a long period of time without losing control of their hosts and just basically rotting away inside the brain without dying.
Yeah, I like that element of it, though, is that it does allow them to survive without the Kandrona.
Which that's clever, because then it kind of helps us believe that it's addictive as well. Because that would make sense that they'd be addicted to something that, they already need to survive on, Something that has that aspect to it.
Yeah, this is like the Yeerks discovering processed food. McDonald's.
No, this is like them discovering like instant suntans or something.
Right. And then having that instantly turn them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge problem for the Yeerks, and now the team knows about it.
So, of course, we got to go back to Cassie's barn and discuss the ethics of the situation. And
well, really,
how
that's the best place for it, Yeah. And I like this conversation, actually. The team gets around to kind of debate the ethics of using an addictive substance to fight in the war. And I like
they're
that.
Basically talking, biochemicals.
Yeah. I mean,
biochemical
there's
warfare.
A lot that could be insinuated with this. And I don't know. I thought they could have tackled this element a lot more, but they all seem to settle on it pretty quickly.
I just want to point out real quick, we haven't been talking about Rachel's perspective on the story so far, because in my mind, she doesn't have much of one. She's pretty absent from this book told in the first person from her mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that she just wants to go along with the plan. Whatever the plan is, no matter how crazy, no matter how dangerous it is, she is actively all for it. Always.
I know, but when we talk about a Cassie book, and we talk about them quite a bit, and we have our own very strong opinions on them, we at least know it feels like a Cassie book. And Jake's book, oh my gosh, those are becoming so centric towards his problems, his identifying factors, his personality. Those books are almost completely different from the rest of the series because there's so much Jake. And same thing, you could say the exact same thing with Marco. Same thing, Cassie. Rachel, so far, I mean, they keep playing up the, I'm dangerous, I'm going to jump in every situation, and I have to, and that worries me. But it's not very strong. It's just kind of background noise to whatever plot's happening.
Yeah, that seems to be her trademark for the time being. That and, getting amnesia.
I would say that really, we get out of that funk when we hit the David trilogy, and she has real things to deal with.
Her purpose.
Oh man, her actually, now thinking about it, her perspective on that is, it's the best book in that series. So I can't wait for that, because we definitely don't have it in this book.
No. Well, I mean, a little bit towards the end, I think she comes off a little bit cooler, but we'll get to that in a sec. Here's one scene that I thought was actually really cool from this book, is after the team kind of debates about whether or not they should use oatmeal and decide for it. They're all pretty disappointed because, of course, that means another trip to the Yeerk pool is imminent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next scene, we've got Rachel waking up kind of early at home, and she wants to sit down and do some homework. And this is a cool scene because we get Tobias coming to her window and, sitting at her desk with her and helping her with her math homework.
And it's very nonchalant. It even makes a reference to the fact that this is a very normal thing between them, which is cool. It's like they have this kind of private life outside of everyone else.
Yeah, and, it's a nice little scene. The whole purpose of it is for Tobias to give the information that he's found a new entrance to the Yeerk pool. But just the way that it's handled in this nice little scene, we get a tiny bit of, relationship development between these two characters that we haven't seen for quite a while. And It's nice. And it works because the next scene we cut to is the team going to this new entrance to the Yeerk pool. And it's at a McDonald's.
Yeah, and this is the classic fan conversation of, or not conversation, but reference to the Happy Meal with Extra Happy.
Yeah, that's the password that Tobias has painstakingly discovered after scoping out this McDonald's for so long. is they have to wait around for somebody to order a Happy Meal with extra happy. That's the key word. And they're all in Flymorph at the time. And they wait around until this happens, and then they follow this person inside this back secret room that I think is hidden in the freezer or something.
Yeah.
And here we have a new little update to the Yeerk technology and security for the Yeerk pools. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, the Gleet biofilter, which, to be honest, I'd never read this book before, but I'd heard of this, obviously. The later books really go into it.
Yeah,
so I was really happy to see the origin of that is in this book.
You mentioned that you've never read this book before. I know that I've read it, but it must have been, back in the elementary school days during the first run of the series, because I didn't remember anything concerning the oatmeal, but I did when we get to it. I vaguely remembered Mole Morph. That was the only thing that really resonated with me, where I was like, oh, yeah, I did kind of read this a long, long time ago. I didn't remember anything else from the book besides the Mole Morph.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah. It's weird that it seems like the Mole Morph is more important than the Bat Morph. Yeah, that's the one that made the cover.
Yeah, you never really know. And that's the problem with books like this, is people pigeonholed them to the one specific plot element. This is the oatmeal book. That's what it's known for. Nobody ever calls it the Mole Morph book.
No one ever calls it the Gleet biofilter book.
Yeah, nobody calls it that. So that's one thing that I kind of like that we're doing with these podcasts, is pointing out the fact that these books have a lot more going on for them than what the fan base remembers them for.
We're shining a bold, bright light on the darkness that is the spreading Animorphs fan community.
Yeah, people. I guess.
Yeah.
We're talking Gleet biofilters, right? So they're in the freezer chamber with the controller. Everything seems to be going well, and then like an alarm goes off, and Axe is like, "Oh my God, everybody GTFO!" And they have to bail real quick. And in fact, some of them end up like losing wings or something because they're hardly through the crack in the door.
Yeah, and I really like that because Axe is really goofy in this book until he's not in this scene where he flips out and gets them out of there just in time. So that was nice. I like that turn. That 180.
Yeah, but this this proposes a new problem. The team assumes that, every entrance is probably similarly protected by these technologies. And they're just kind of like, well, crap, what are we going to do now? And this is when Cassie offers everybody an alternate way to access the Yeerk pool, which is, of course, Mole Morph. Hans Moleman Morph.
I've been feeling a little better about Cassie lately. She's been coming up with better reasons to exist, and, she's becoming a stronger element of the crew. This is another one of those, what the hell were they thinking listening to her? Mole is so small, and you're going to be digging hundreds of meters down to get to the Yeerk pool. It works, don't get me wrong. We all know, we've read this book. It ends up working, but it nearly kills them just from having to do it. I mean, it's a lot more work than probably finding the many other ways they get into the Yeerk pool later.
Well, yeah, and I think Cassie maybe overestimated the mole's ability. And I think she even admits herself that she doesn't know a whole lot about the moles. And that's why when everybody, they get their mole morphs and they go and find a vacant house that's kind of above the Yeerk pool so that they can start their digging, and they set up shop in this shed, I guess, storage shed at the house. Mm-hmm. And Rachel, of course, is the one who's going to be going first to test the mole morph. And this was kind of a funny little scene where, like we've seen in so many other books, the first time they use a morph, they're not expecting such strong instincts, and they do get carried away a little bit. But I liked this one in particular because Rachel's kind of like messing around, above ground, and everybody's just sort of standing over her, like talking. And it's great because we're in Rachel's mind. She is the mole, and she's thinking all these mole thoughts. But we also get all the little snippets from everybody else who's like, I think the mole's instincts got her. She seems to be digging around there. They're, just like observing her until finally Jake has to pick her up and be like, Rachel, snap out of it.
Which I assumed it's like a dog when you put them like over water, but you don't put them in water. They're just kind of slowly moving in the dog paddle motion. I assume that's what she was doing in Mole Morph.
That could have been. Yeah, well, they set her down and she goes at it and discovers that it's...
She refuses to admit that she lost control of the morph, of course.
Yeah, of course. That's been a strong personality trait of her thus far. The inability to admit any wrongdoing. But she tests out the Mole Morph, and they're quick to discover after many hours of digging that it's just not going to be an easy or quick process. They even measure their progress and realize that it's just going to take forever to dig the damn tunnel.
Yeah, and they, instead of trying to find another way, to their credit, they're just like, okay, we'll put in the work. And it takes them 4 days to put in said work.
Yeah, that was kind of nice, actually. I like the team hitting snags and then just having to, work around it, even if their only way to do it is just to work through it.
I also appreciated the description of the actual being in Mole Morph and digging down and how claustrophobic it is and how you can't turn around. You have to dig these little side holes to turn around even, and how terrifying that kind of was for them. I appreciate that as someone who is absolutely horrified at the idea of spelunking.
Yeah, well, and she, mentions how terrified she is of that until she gets into the mole morph, and moles feel way more comfortable and confident underground, obviously.
Yep, and after 4 days of work,
after
4 days of work, they find that they're hitting a snag, and it's not just a snag. It's not like harder soil or anything. They hit bedrock. Which is obviously a big problem for Mole Morphs. You can't do much with those claws when you're hitting minerals or rock face. So, luckily, though, there is a crack, and Rachel's able to squeeze through it and falls into a sub-cavern. It's not the Yerk pool.
The underground!
Yes, I see that you wrote that in all caps because you thought you were clever in the notes.
Yeah, way to take away my... I mean, this is why I write these notes, because I want to be clever and read them exactly as I wrote them, and then you go ahead and do this story spot. Yeah, the team's all about to give up on their little mole digging quest until Rachel goes back down one last time and snoops around, and she does find a crack in the rocks. And she does fall into the underground.
No, don't try to. I'm not going to let you say it again and completely say it the way you wanted to so that you can now edit my part out. I'm not going to go back and read it. No, I'm not going to.
I've already mentioned the fact that I wrote it this way because I wanted to say it this way. And you going ahead and saying this point before I get to it, it doesn't deter me. I'm going back and saying it. This is the only chance we get to use the title of the book.
What's that title again?
The Underground. And it's one thing, because sometimes the titles really just don't have much to do with the book.
Yeah, this whole book is very themed to the title. I mean, every morph is an underground creature. It's all centered around the Yerk pool, which is a big underground setting of the series in general. So yeah, I appreciate that, them kind of theming the whole book around it.
You appreciate me working the title into
No, I don't appreciate that
I knew you would.
No, I appreciate the authors for kind of making this theme of the book.
Oh, well, this part is kind of weird, actually. I thought, anyway, because they're in the ground, the underground, and they fall into a giant bat cave, which is not the least believable part about this. The least believable part is that once they all get down there, they demorph, first of all. So there are a bunch of kids sitting around in this bat poop-filled cave in, one could only assume, absolute darkness, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think they mentioned any light being down there.
No, there's no way.
And this is where Tobias finally gets a bat morph. So,
yeah, because the rest of them have them from the Eric book.
Way back in, book...
Number 9. Yeah.
8.
No. 8 is the alien.
Oh.
It's either 9 or 10. It might be 10. I think it might be 10.
Nope, it's 9. You're right.
Okay, I was right originally? Okay.
I'll give it to you.
But yeah, so Tobias awkwardly gets a bat morph in his hawk morph. It's not a morph, in his hawk body. And they find another crack, I guess?
No, once they get everybody's in Batmorph now, and they're using their echolocation, and not surprisingly, one or the other, Tobias doesn't encounter any bat instincts to deal with, so I guess they didn't have time to write that in. They just kind of skip over that, and everybody manages to fly right into the Yerk pool with no trouble. And then we get into the second and arguably more exciting part of this book.
Yeah, because they all almost die, and it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, this is one thing that I can find a lot of fault with. I don't know if you were particularly, if you had as many problems with this as I do, but once they get inside the Yerk pool and they're flying around in Batmorph, they're almost immediately attacked by what is only described as hunter robots. This is a new security technology to the Yerk pool, and to me, it came out of nowhere, and I didn't feel like it really fit in with the what we've seen so far.
No, I disagree with this. I do have problems with this scene that's coming up, but I don't have a problem with this because they already did the setup. They did the good writing setup of the BioGleet filters. So you already have this amped up security in the Yerk pool. So the fact that there is now security within the Yerk pool itself as well to back up that.
Hunter robots is just so generic.
Well, yeah, the name is generic, but the fact that they have these drones that are flying around the cavern, just making sure there's nothing out of place or there's no animals getting in, that is 100% what Visor 3 would do. We know that they have the technology to do it, and we've already seen an instance of them ramping up security. So, to me, this is all in line with the series and the mythology so far.
No, I agree that it makes sense. I just would have liked to see a little bit more creativity than, oh no, hunter robots.
Sure.
They're firing lasers.
I feel like they probably got backed into a corner with that. It's like, what do we call them? But the Animorphs won't know what they're actually called. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they could have done another exposition of like, oh no, those are Escaflowne robots.
Escaflowne?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's a Gundam!
Amazing. It's a Gundam. I want that book. The Animorphs versus Visor 3's Gundam Morph.
Oh, that'd be a good book.
Right, yeah. That would be. But it's hardly a plot point. When it happened, I was so surprised and off-put by how quickly it came out of nowhere. It just bothered me. That's the kind of thing that bothers me. So.
Here's what I had a problem with. So they're all getting attacked, and they're all just barely surviving against these things that are shooting them point blank lazily. There's no getting away from them, really. So Rachel loses her wing. Her wing gets blasted off by one of these hunter robots, and she falls in the Yerk pool. And the book tried to explain this. It tried to kind of, take our attention away from it. But I refuse to believe that you could morph into a viable host surrounded by Yerks, and they don't have some kind of instinct to implant you.
What do you mean? Like, you don't think the Yerks would want bat bodies?
No. The bat's fine. I understand the Yerk's not going into the bat. But she says she's okay with going to human morph while in the Yerk pool, underwater. She's okay going to human morph because the Yerks only go back to the pier. Like, they've trained themselves to go back to the pier, and that's where they do host. But I refuse that a species that has evolved in little pools on this planet, that whenever a host comes anywhere near them, they're able to get in and implant it. I refuse to believe that if something fell in that was a viable host, that one of them wouldn't try to enter the canal.
Well, no, I believe that she never actually put her head under the water.
What are you talking about? She goes completely human underwater.
Yeah, but she makes a point to mention that she goes underneath the pier so they can't see her, and she specifically mentions that she keeps her head above as she's trying to demorph, and that's what kind of adds to the tension and everything. When I read it, I was led to believe that, she never went under.
I didn't get that
what
from mine. Maybe I missed something, but
I
the way they describe the pier too, when she's an Antmorph, it seems like the water is fairly close to the bottom of the pier. So I don't know how she could keep her head out of the water completely. But maybe I missed something. That's possible.
That's the kind of thing I was specifically paying attention for, because immediately when you get a character falling into the Yeerk pool, which hasn't really happened since book 6. Wow. You're attentive to that kind of thing. Like, wow, are they gonna say that she goes under, and maybe like she plugs her ears or something? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't encounter any problems with that.
Okay, well, we can move on.
She's in
maybe,
there. She demorphs and she remorphs, as you mentioned, to ant. And there's a big thing. Antmorph comeback.
Yeah, it seems like there could have been another. I understand. She wanted to go something incredibly small, like unnoticeably small.
Yeah.
I probably would have gone termite over ant, just because you had less of a chance of running into a colony, which was the big problem with a termite, versus an ant, that their problem with that was just they couldn't handle the mind itself.
Yeah. It's surprisingly no problems there controlling Antmorph this time.
Because it was convenient.
Right. She basically manages to march straight out of the Yeerk pool and attach herself to somebody's pant leg really quickly. So, no problems there.
Very smooth. Very going well for the most part. Although she doesn't know where anybody is, if anybody's alive, whatnot.
Yeah, this was kind of dare I say a convenience here, where she's in Antmorph, not really able to find her way around or anything, but somehow she ends up in a private room where she is able to demorph successfully, and she even finds a Dracon beam like sitting around. And this is the part where the story, to me, finally picked up to a point where I was interested in it. It took this long.
Yeah. So she gets a Dracon beam, which that's more Rachel's character. I can totally see her gunslinging around the Yeerk pool, just firing it off. I'm surprised she even put it in a low setting and wasn't just murdering people left and right.
Yeah. This definitely brings her character around, because I don't even think that Cassie would be so bold as to pick up a Dracon beam and start 007ing around the Yeerk pool there.
Yeah, it's a cool scene, and she gets around quite a bit as a human, which again, pretty flippant with that human morph. But
she even manages to take out a couple of the controllers that are just like standing around, and I think she steals clothes from some of them to kind of blend in with the Yeerk pool crowd.
Yeah, until she's able to find Axe, the first Animorph she finds.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much everybody's not doing so well. Axe is demorphed, and he's surrounded by controllers, and the situation's not going well. Marco's desperately calling out to Rachel, like, where are you? Everybody's worried, all that.
She's human, she can't respond. I did have a little problem with Axe giving up. They beat it into our heads, and there's no Andalite controllers except Visitor 3. That's because they kill themselves before they let themselves be captured. So the fact that even though he's a kid, even though he's an Oris, I still have a hard time believing that he would give himself up at all.
Yeah, but that page count is really climbing, and we gotta wrap this thing up. So Axe surrenders, no problem. And this is where Rachel manages to overhear quite the convenient exchange between two controllers. One of which just so happens to get in trouble for having some oatmeal readily available, convenient to the plot.
It lets us know that there is a storeroom nearby that is holding all of the confiscated oatmeal, which is a lot, because apparently this is a major problem within your community. They're being addicted left and right.
Oh, it also would be good to mention the fact that in deciding to go through with this whole oatmeal plot, the Animorphs, specifically Marco, has stocked up on this instant maple ginger oatmeal.
Yeah.
And even though they've done this, they really had no idea how they would get it to the Yeerk pool, especially, you know, when they started going mole morph or thinking mole. I don't know what their strategy was, and they really didn't even have a strategy. They just went down into the Yeerk pool. Well, and that's actually a big problem with this book.
No, it's not necessarily a problem, because I think this is just another instance of this was supposed to be a scouting mission, and then once the hunter robots showed up, they were fighting for their lives. This wasn't supposed to be the mission where they took the oatmeal into the pool.
I guess, but man, it wasn't very well thought out, and this plot point here is what makes everything so convenient, is that the Yeerks just happen to have a storeroom full of barrels of oatmeal
that they keep on site.
Yeah, well, you know, it's very important. And Rachel, in overhearing this conversation, is almost discovered once again by the controllers, but she manages to escape once again by knocking out another controller, and she even finds Cassie, who's hanging out in human morph.
I picture Cassie just like hanging out in the cafeteria eating some fries.
I picture Cassie in horse morph standing around again.
Everybody's just walking by her. She's standing there grazing.
And this is when a bug fighter happens to show up carrying, you guessed it, Visor 3, because it's been a book since we've seen him. So.
Oh yeah, he was antsy to get back in the action.
And they meet up with Marco, who's already in gorilla morph, ready for action, and Rachel wants to go elephant, she wants to go grizzly initially, but then she rethinks this as the team is regrouping, and she ends up going elephant.
Yeah, and I like this little scene in the storeroom where they're like, okay, we've got to go out through here, we've got to get around these people, we've got to somehow sneak across this one building, and then we'll be back at the storeroom. And then Rachel's like, wait, isn't the storeroom like on the other side of this wall? And Marco's like, Yes, it is. And then they just plow through it.
Yeah, that made sense. That was
a very movie-like scene.
And this is kind of a bad situation that they're in, really. But considering what they've got, they make the best out of it. And Rachel manages to, in her elephant morph, toss a couple of these barrels of oatmeal into the nearby Yeerk pool.
Well, yeah, they demolished this shed that held all this oatmeal in it, so there's all these barrels that they assume the oatmeal's in, because it's just there's so much of it. So they start tossing, specifically Rachel starts tossing these barrels into the Yeerk pool, so they're floating there, unopened.
Yeah, and then they've got this kind of Mexican standoff situation with Visor 3, where, you know, they're basically saying, hey, give us our freedom and we won't, you know, addict all your Yeerks there on this oatmeal.
And this is easily the most badass scene in a lot of the books. I would almost say of any of the books so far. I will go that far. So they're in this Mexican standoff. It's up to Visor 3 to either protect the Yeerks who are in the pool or let the Andalite bandits go. He makes the decision very quickly that we can lose half the Yeerk pool, which is what would happen if one of these barrels exploded. We can lose half the Yeerk pool to this addictive substance if it means I can get the Andalite bandits. And in this scene, Rachel figures that out. It's the best thing that we have to be in her head, because she figures it out as he decides to do that. And Rachel, no thought process, no anything, runs up in elephant morph and grabs Visor 3 around the midsection, knowing what these Andalites, how fast they are with their tail, how deadly they are.
And she gets hit.
She gets hit bad. She gets hit once. That was kind of just like a surprised Andalite slash, and then he goes for her eyes and probably gets pretty deep and really, really hurts the morph. So she gets away with it. She throws Visor 3 in this badass scene of into the pool, and then Marco raises the Dracon beam and asks if Visor 3 is still willing to be a part of this possible sacrifice with the Yeerks. It's awesome.
Suddenly he cares if they shoot the barrels.
Yeah, it's the best scene in this book and one of the best scenes of the series.
So they manage to free the rest of the team, because of course Visor 3 is not going to give any orders when he himself is in danger. and everybody gets to make their escape, but, Visitor 3 is kind of a sore loser, so... Of course, we haven't seen a morph from him for a while, and he does just that. Morphs into this big, spiky bird thing.
They say it looks like a pterodactyl, and then they go on to describe it to look almost exactly like a pterodactyl with spikes.
Yeah, like a mix between a pterodactyl and a hedgehog. Which
and I'd like
sweet.
to point out, they keep saying pterodactyl, but it's really a pteranodon, because pterodactyls didn't have a back crest, which they described this having, so...
Yeah, they didn't have quills either.
Exactly. So. Well, I'm just saying. Just throwing it out there, a little dinosaur knowledge for our listeners.
But, when I was reading this thing, I was like, man, we don't have many pages left. How's this gonna end? And
quickly.
they do get they get trapped sort of inside the Yerk pool, and this is where Rachel comes up with the brilliant idea of just shooting out the ceiling and telling everybody to go mole, which they do.
Yeah, they're on the staircase, so it's not like they're shooting out the main dome of the Yerk pool. It's just the sloping ceiling into the stairwell.
Yeah, probably one little stairwell.
But yeah, there's Hork-Bajir coming down the stairs. There's Hork-Bajir and Visitor 3 coming up the stairs, so they didn't have a lot of options.
Not at all. And this is you mentioned earlier how they had to in Molmorph they had to dig little spots to turn around. And one of the things she mentions here is how they're all able to escape. It took forever, and she even had to stop and dig out a spot for them to be able to demorph underground and then remorph. Like, how could an individual or even a group of 5 moles dig a space underground large enough for the humans and the Andalite?
Well, I think they could do it, and I don't think they were all together. I think they were all doing their own separate holes. So it's not about making one giant cavern where they could demorph.
That would be more believable than the individual mole having to... I mean, think about Axe. Think about the Axe mole.
Well, that's why
he would have to dig out a huge section just to demorph.
Yeah, and that's why they say it took forever. But I could believe if they had to dig out a big space for all 5 of them, I would less believe that, because where's all that dirt going? Where is, how are they, how is that being supported? A brand new structure underground. That would be harder to believe than them digging out 5 to 6 feet in length for a human body to demorph in. So it just probably took a long, long, long time.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, it doesn't really give us a specific time frame. I have to assume it's like the next day or something.
Yeah.
It cuts to everybody, making their way out to the surface and kind of regrouping and going their separate ways. And the book ends with Rachel going home after some time and speaking with her mom, who reveals that George Edelman has escaped from the Mental Health Institute with the aid of a large grizzly bear. I wonder who that was.
Well, the patients say it was a grizzly bear. No one believes the patients because it's a nut house. So
right. But, we all know it was Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nice. I mean, I'm glad that she eventually ended up going back and helping
I like how
Edelman.
offhanded it was. I like that they didn't actually show the scene. So it was kind of like Rachel was so sick and tired after this Yerk pool getaway that she just was so fed up with all the bull crap. She went over to the mental institution, morphed a grizzly, opened his door, and let him out.
Yeah, it was definitely cool, and we didn't even need to see the scene play out in order to believe it and, be happy with it.
And the whole mother being his lawyer was irrelevant. I mean, that was just for a couple lines of exposition. They could have done that a more clever way.
Yeah, now that I think about it. When I first read that line, I was thinking, oh, great, now we're going to have to sit, in a courtroom scene with Rachel sitting there.
Oh, come on. How good would that be if we had an entire book that was somebody on trial, and it was like the poker game from Casino Royale, where there's the main poker game, and then all these adventure scenes are happening outside or in hotel rooms around it, and they all come back to the table. How awesome would it be if the Animorphs had this courtroom scene where they're morphing outside, coming back in, they're trying to keep witnesses alive, and that'd be awesome.
That would be pretty awesome.
I want to read that book.
Megamorphs number 5.
Yeah.
Courtroom drama.
I want that book.
So this book ends with just one little last beat here where Rachel's hanging out at home. Things are great. Marco stops by to unload his oatmeal on her, and presumably, confess his love for her.
Oh, that totally happened off screen, 100%.
Well, they gave her a scene with Tobias. Now they got to give her a scene with Marco.
Yep, that's the love triangle.
Is my theory.
If she would have pushed that into a love triangle, like actually made it more obvious instead of the subtle good love triangle it is now, this could have totally been Twilight.
Maybe. I'm almost glad it didn't go that route.
Well, I'm just saying it could have had that popularity, except it would have had good writers behind it.
Yes, I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my friend, that is book number 17, The Underground. I think we've discussed it. I think we've done it justice.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are ready to rate and review it. What say you?
I say I'm going first.
Oh, okay.
Deal with it.
Wondering which roller coaster has the highest top speed, or what exhibit is our guide's favorite in the park? Just ask them. They love to share their opinions and critical analysis to help you better plan your day.
So this book was, I don't know, it's not as bad as everybody makes it out. It's definitely not a 1 out of 5 or anything, and it's one of those books that, yeah, the whole oatmeal thing has become more infamous than what the actual plot was or the writing standard or anything. And I think at this point, Rachel is more of a side character still. She's the one who has some witty lines, has some sarcastic remarks with Marco, and is the one who's ready to jump into battle. She doesn't have a full-on character yet, which is why I think her books struggle. I mean, that's the worst thing about this book, is it's just struggling to have a personality. I don't think they've found it yet. So, with that said, I was writing a 2 for pretty much the entire book. That said, a couple of the scenes I think were excellent. The Mexican standoff and everything after they demorphed from bats I thought was really, really good and better writing than the rest of the book. I liked that they went back to the Yerk pool, and it was actually another really tense situation. Wasn't as scary as the first time, but since they added in all those claustrophobia elements, it actually made it pretty terrifying as well. But yeah, I think they also did a good job of this book being themed. It's the underground, and everything has to do with the underground, including their morphs. So that's pretty clever. So that brought it up to a 3. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Gleep biofilters.
Aw, you took my rating. I was going to use the Gleep biofilters.
It's mine.
Okay, fair enough. I for the most part, I think feel like you and I have the same opinions for a lot of this. The things I liked about the book, the fact that George Edelman as a character, he actually had a really depressing story that I think maybe they could have done a little bit more with it. It could have been interesting. The short snippet we're given works for the story, and it's entertaining enough. The things that I kind of had a problem with are definitely, like you said, with Rachel. At this point, she has very few character traits to her. She's had less development, I feel like, than even Cassie. She's just way too impulsive, which did get kind of annoying throughout. I feel like the plot of the story hinges on some major conveniences, too many conveniences, in fact, for me to really consider it a well thought out story. I feel like the whole oatmeal plot, while interesting, it's kind of like the cannibalism plot in that it will be quickly forgotten and never mentioned again. Like you said, everything up until the point where they demorph from bat, it was kind of boring, to say the least. It felt like I actively had to work through it to get to where this story was going. And then in the end, while it was kind of a fun climax, it just really didn't leave me with a very strong impression overall. And because of that fact, I couldn't really recommend this book to, fans of the series. This is one of the books where I'd say, you could skip it. You really could. And because of that, it doesn't earn a 3 in my eyes. It's a full-on 2. This book gets 2 out of 5 Batmorphs.
Batmorphs.
So there you be, my friend.
That's interesting. I thought you were going to go 3 out as well.
No, I felt very strongly about a 2 until I hit that end point where it ramped up a bit, and then I thought, oh, this is some 3-worthy action here. But it doesn't get into any of that until far too late.
Yeah,
after
too little,
the point
too late
where
scenario.
I stopped caring.
Yeah.
And it's just, when I think about it, when I really think hard about it, this is not a book that I would go, oh yeah, you should read this one. This would be one that I would full on go, skip it.
Interesting.
Nothing important happens. Skip it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's elements that I thought were worthy of this book as far as just, it's not really filler, because I don't know if this oatmeal stuff ever comes back. I don't think it does, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it does either. Much like the cannibalism plot, they might mention it later on.
As far as we know, all of these things come back up in the ghostwritten books that we've never read. So
right, we'll see. I have an inkling though that I doubt the oatmeal plot will come back into play ever again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's this week's episode. I mean, that's our review and discussion of the 17 The Underground. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I at least enjoyed reading the book. I mean, I thought it was worth reading. So
I always enjoy reading an Animorphs book. Whether or not I could go on to recommend it to new fans of the series or just anyone, this wouldn't be one of those books.
So, okay, well, great. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. And definitely, if you did, go on iTunes. You can review us on there. Give us 5 stars. We've got a pretty good run right now. Don't ruin it.
Right, only 5 stars.
Yeah, so far, 21 reviews. Or I think it's up to like 23 now. I can't remember.
Nah, we're still on 21.
Either way. But you can also go to our Facebook, like us on there if you want to see when the new episodes come out, or if we have other things to post. We usually post a lot of it on the Facebook. And usually whatever gets posted to Facebook, I also post to Twitter. But I post some other things to Twitter as well. So you can follow us on Twitter at Morphcast, where Michael Grant and series author Kay Applegate have followed our Twitter. So that's who you've got to compete with as far as looking at our tweets.
Ooh,
and
we're so popular.
We're so popular. And you can also obviously check out our website where all the episodes are posted, as well as some bios about us, and apparently we're saving the wildlife now.
Yeah, I after thinking about it good and long, I think this Thoughtspeak podcast can be put to some good use by sort of spreading the word about some of the transgressions that are happening currently concerning our endangered animal species. Specifically, elephants, rhinos, and tigers are 3 of the primary ones that come to mind. So I'm working on a new page of the website called Save the Animals. If it's up by the time we get this episode posted, by all means, go check it out. There's some real troubling facts listed there, and we'd really like to spread the word about this. And particularly, I just want to get the word out about stopping ivory trafficking and terrorism funding.
Yeah,
some serious stuff.
We're getting into the heady subject matter on our website, which you can check all that out at Thoughtspeakcast.com. So that's where that is.
That's right.
If you have anything to add to that, or you want to just talk to us in general, you can email us at thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com as well. That
would be a good idea. We love hearing from y'all.
Mm-hmm.
As well as coming out to Reddit and joining the conversation.
Yeah, r/Animorphs on Reddit. That's where we hang out and post the episodes. So we reply to a lot of people on there as well. That's where we usually bring up the conversations.
We do. We love chatting.
Yep. So that's where you can contact us and see more of our stuff. Right now, we are also promoting Mitch's new book series, Devil Ash Days, which you can see at devilashdays.com, which Mitch is the author of that series. There's going to be 3 books pretty soon, within this year.
It's coming up.
Yeah. But there are 2 books released right now, and I actually directed a book trailer, a live-action book trailer for the book series, which can also be checked out at devilashdays.com.
It's super cool. It would be in your best interest to support the series, support us, the hosts of this podcast, in our personal and professional lives. We greatly appreciate it. All your reviews, all your friendly comments, everything.
Yeah, so check all that out and let us know what you think. So that's us. That's the episode. I'm glad we're sticking to this new format of keeping things pretty tight, which is why we're not really reading any reviews from listeners this week or anything like that. Maybe we'll be able to fit that into future episodes. But right now, I like that we're wrapping things up on time and still getting into some really good discussion. So this is how I'd like our new episodes to be for the future.
They will continue to go like this. Next time, we are reading book number 18, The Decision. This is, I anticipate, going to be a good one.
I hope so. It's Axe, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, we'll be getting into that next time on Thoughtspeak. My name is Coleman.
My name is Mitchell. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, everybody be safe and have a good time this holiday season, and we'll see you after the break.
We'll see you in the new year, 2015. Thoughtspeak.
On behalf of everyone here at the Gardens, we hope you've enjoyed your stay and welcome you to come and see us again soon. Or, as they say on the Serengeti, Tafadali emtu, kupata jambo hili nje ya kichwa yangu.